All right, Fern, today we are going to talk all about retention. We're going to talk about the truth about retention, how to keep people longer, how to grow without ads, and why retention is the metric that actually runs your gym. So, retention is the most important number in your business, and most gym owners don't know what their retention is, nor do they know how to calculate it. They will tell you things like the vibes are great, we have great culture, our coaching, our programming, all these things without telling you what actually their number is. But it's a system. And if you don't understand it, you'll always feel like your gym is not running to its maximum potential. You're not making as much money as you should. And you're most importantly, you're not having the impact you should. So, why do you say retention is the most important metric?
Yeah, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't believe we've done like a sole show on retention. I know
We
we've talked about it endlessly in a bunch of different podcasts, but I don't think we've ever sat down and been like, yo, this is all we're going to talk about in this topic.
no, we've done leads to lifers, which obviously, lifer meaning you've retained them beyond 190 days. We've given away plenty of ways to do a better job, but not like, cool, that's like, hey, functional movements, go do them versus like, this is what a functional
Right.
movement is: large loads, long distances, quickly.
Yeah. So I think the reason retention is this nebulous idea is because I would for sure categorize it as a bundled term, meaning like it means a lot of shit. There's math, there's procedures, there's the conceptual component of it. So I think I think we'll talk about a couple different ways. Like number one, let's talk with what is retention. And I would fundamentally say this, and then we'll turn this into math, which is retention by our definition, best hour, the way we look at it, is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of growth in a gym.
Yeah, and there's a reason that's our definition, because it's the equivalent to intensity in CrossFit. Like, that's what's going to get you results. And
Yes.
retention, everyone's like leads and I need new members, but really keep your current members and the results will follow.
So now to take that, because if we're going to use that statement, and in the level one, we would give it backwards. We would give the definition, or we would give the equation, and we talk about this is what it means. We're kind of doing it backwards. This is what it means. Now let's work backwards into what do I mean by back it up by math. So when we look at, we'll just call them kind of gym vanity metrics, people that are metrics that people like to speak about, or quite frankly, that you should just know. They're very important. But things like lifetime value, things like length of engagement, average client value has a correlation to this that's very strong. Your lifetime gross profit as well, it gets factored into here. Like they're all, if you want a good number, what makes that fundamentally a good number is good retention, right? If I want good length of engagement, that means people stick around for a long time. If I want good lifetime gross profit, that fundamentally means people have to stick around. Now, there's other variables inside that could make it not as great, meaning like what is ticket value, all of that other kind of stuff. So when we think about it, like the one number that I really want to look at is fundamentally like it's kind of no different than cash flow management, which is like rule number one of cash flow management is find out how many dollars are falling out of the bucket, which is like keep your dollars first. Let's not talk about making new dollars. Tell me where the fuck your current dollars are going. And this is where people kind of like miss the mark on that. It's like, it's not that it's the only thing. Like if you had great retention and you never got a new client, that is not going to be a recipe for growth. Just understand that the rate of growth is significantly faster, if not exponential, if you have great retention.
Well, yeah, and that's like to your point about money. Like you'll save a lot more money if you continue to make money, but also don't spend what you currently have.
It's the exact same analogy, and that's the way we want to think about this. So when we look at the other thing to consider here is most CrossFit affiliate owners, not everybody, we would say have a deficiency in sales. Right. And sales meaning like my ability to actually sell and convert and have a good, well-structured sales process combined with the marketing piece, which is like drive leads. Right. So all of that will just bundle into sales. When my retention is bad, it increases the pressure or the requirement for sales on the front end for me to grow. So if I have poor retention, I have to sell more on the front end. And that basically becomes this really, really devastating kind of life cycle of like always requiring more and more and more on the front end in order to grow the business because the back end is so bad. Whereas if I just retain better, the pressure on the front end starts to drastically decrease. And this is why we always have been beating the drum on net 3. So those are the two things. Like, what is retention? You know, just as a definition, but then defining it from a mathematical standpoint is also really, really important.
So give your definition again, just so the listeners.
It's the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of growth of an affiliate.
Right.
And
so,
then that can be looked at through, you know, just number one, tell me what you're, as a definition, like, are you plus or minus clients on a monthly basis?
right. And no different than with intensity. You know, we might say it's the independent variable most commonly associated with the rate of return of favorable adaptation.
Right.
Hey, intensity gives you results. And what you're
Correct.
essentially saying is retention gives you growth.
It gives you growth, which is the outcome that you're looking for in any business. For the most, I'm looking for growth. Now, growth is not a goal, right? It's an outcome of a series of things done over time, right? So when we say like, I want to grow, you can't say I want to grow. That's the outcome, but then have to reverse engineer that into what would a business that was growing be doing? And then those are the things that I start to look at, which comes into kind of like the subheading of the definition of retention, which is like retention is a series of things done consistently and consistently well that would lend the end user to getting the outcomes that they came for. AKA your clients get results and they have a good time at your gym. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about retention. So now the tactical component of that, there's so many different ways to do this, and there's so many different avenues that you can attack this from. But I find that people start with tactics and then fundamentally don't understand strategy and concept first. And when you do those, you can start creating tactics and things that kind of lead you down the wrong path. You know, and so when we're talking about retention, the kind of inverse way to say that is like, what is your churn? And your churn is going to be the number of cancellations that you had divided by active clients. Some people are like, is that at the end of the month? Is it the beginning of the month? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's a rolling number, no matter how you calculate it. But like, just at the end of the month, you just go in there. How many cancellations did I have? Boom. How many clients do I have today? Boom. Do that math, and you'll get a number. So use easy math. I had 5 cancellations this month. At the end of the month, I have 100 active clients. I have a 5% churn. Now, if you need to know that number, because that starts to bleed over into a ton of other areas, right? So this starts to help you define what your lead need is, meaning like how many leads do I need on the front end to grow based on my churn? This is one of the things that most people, almost everybody misses, which is like your lead need is directly defined by your churn.
Right. The more people you lose, the more leads you need.
They're not a correlate. It is a direct reflection of your churn. So when we think about it, we have to know that. And so when we're thinking about churn, generally speaking, you need to track that. I track it on a weekly basis because I like to see trends on tighter loops than on a monthly basis. Because if you do it on a monthly basis, you could get to the end of the month and be like, oh fuck, it's bad. I didn't see all of that coming. If I'm doing it on a weekly basis, which is what we recommend people to do, then you can react faster. I'll also know, like, over a long enough period of time, what is a rolling 4-week average of cancellations or cancellations plus holds or whatever, or new members, and I can start to do the math on that. So I think you need to understand conceptually what retention is, and I think you need to understand mathematically what retention is. Then you can get into the tactics of retention. But I think most people skip right to tactics and don't even understand how to calculate it, number one. So they wouldn't even know what is it's like playing a video game where you don't really understand, well, like, what's the goal of the video game? Right? Am I supposed to go kill the guys, or am I supposed to wander around and pick up treasures? Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Is this Legend or is this Modern Warfare? I don't know. So I think really framing it through those particular lenses, and I've said this before, like if you only gave me 2 metrics to measure in a gym, give me funnel efficiency on the front end, and then tell me what retention is on the back end, I can give you strong correlation, or I could get pretty good at guessing like what all the other metrics would look like and trend towards.
CrossFitters, I've purchased hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment in my life. I've been doing CrossFit since 2007. I've owned 4 affiliates. I currently own an affiliate in my basement. And let me tell you this, Rep Fitness is by far my favorite equipment. First of all, it's amazing quality. The price is right. And what I love is I talk to somebody that I know, that knows me, and that understands my needs. Now, cool thing is, as a family member of Best Hour, you can save big over at Rep Fitness. Go to repfitness.com/best hour and save on your next equipment purchase.
All right, guys, if you like this content, please subscribe to the podcast, but understand we work with affiliates. If you are interested in building your business, understanding strategy, building a better community, and building better coaches and careers for them, hit the link somewhere around this video, and we'd love to have a call with you.
To reinforce what we said earlier, which is your churn directly defines your lead need. So more leads is something we've all said. Like everybody's guilty. I need more leads, right? But it's not more leads. It's how many leads do I need, right? It's a number. It's a mathematical number. And this is what it just demonstrates a lack of information when somebody says that. And listen, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. Like I've said that 1,000 times. But then you come to realize like it's a bad statement that lacks good questions. How many leads do you need? Because it is a number, like it's a very finite number. And what we have figured out on average, there is one assumption in this whole thing, but even with the assumption, you could figure it out, which is your lead need, which is the number of leads that you need to grow, is 3 times your churn, with the singular assumption being that you convert at 50% of leads that you have available to you. So let's do the math on that. If I have a 5% churn on a 100-member gym, that is 5 people leaving every single month. In order to grow reliably, I would need 3 times that number. So I would need 15
leads, closing 7.5.
Closing 7.5, right? Which means I'm going to grow at 2.5 to 3 members on average per month over month. Now, to reinforce, because then the question becomes, okay, well, how many leads are you currently getting? And the answer is, I'm getting 10. Okay, so we need 5 more leads than I'm currently getting on average month over month. Now I can come up with appropriate strategies to generate 5 more leads. Is that a reinvigoration campaign? Is that better bring a friend weeks? Is that asking every single person that comes in for a referral? Is that outbound activity to surrounding businesses? But like all of these things would be available to you, at which point I could reliably project 5 additional leads in this scenario, like better social media posts, right? Give a CTA on your Instagram. Like all of these things would have at least better traction than doing nothing. Now, same scenario, we'll change the equation, right? 100 members, but now your churn is 7% or 7 clients. I go from a lead need of 15 to 21, but I still only have 10, right? So nothing has changed about the gym other than their churn. Their current lead flow is the same, right? The member number is the same. We just changed the churn. The churn is now 7%. In order to grow, I'm going to need 21 people closing at 50%. So 7 people are walking out the door. That means I'm going to need 21 leads closing at 50%, 10 people to grow at 3. But we know they're only getting 10. In the first scenario, I needed 5 additional leads. The second scenario, I need 11 additional leads. Now you can start to realize and highlight the mounting pressure on the front end for sales. And this is when, that's when people look at that scenario and they start to move towards paid lead gen. Not that I have any beef with paid lead gen. but the paid lead gen is not necessarily the solution to that problem. Paid lead gen is a solution, but what I'm looking for is appropriate solution for a given problem. And what I'm doing here is I'm now adding more risk into this scenario that I'm already currently sitting on, which I have a higher churn than I would like. I'm not real clear on my numbers, and then I'm going to go do paid lead gen, which is if you want any at all opportunity to win in that game, you need to know your numbers. Like it's just a math equation, right? And then knowing what you could or couldn't spend. So I really wanted to look at just from a top down view, right? Conceptually, what is retention? Mathematically, what is retention? And then we can come up with any number of ways to solve for that equation, no matter what it is. And this is always usually the first thing that we ask people when they're like, hey, I'm down this month, or I have low lead flow. I'll tell anybody, I'm like, what does that mean numerically? Don't just say you have low leads. How many low leads? And then what was your churn? Because you want to be able to give somebody an exact answer, right? Not a throwaway answer, which is like, try to close better or whatever, right? That's not helping anybody. But if I say, hey, if you can convert 10% better and then figure out a way to gen up 5 more leads per month, this problem is solved for you. And then you'll grow, and then you'll have a different problem. And it's the same problem solving loop over and over and over again. Because realistically, most people shouldn't necessarily need, there's obviously outliers here that would violate this idea. So this is not an absolute statement, but I will tell you, having looked under the hood of hundreds and hundreds of affiliates and analyzing their actual numbers, most people don't need to play around with paid lead gen until over 225 members. There are other ways to solve the problem than doing paid lead gen. And first and foremost is your churn is not what it should be. It's higher than it needs to be.
Yeah, and 98% of affiliates never approach 225 members.
Yeah. So now let's define what good and bad churn is. So we have a pretty tight range that we're looking for inside of affiliate use. So we want on the high end, we want to see a 5% churn. On the low end, 3. The mathematic, once you get below, I've not found there to be a ton of value in trying to pull the churn below 3%, because the return on that effort is actually negative at that point. Like at this point, I'm trying to get people to not move for the job that they just got. I'm like, don't further your career. Just stay here at the gym. And it's not gonna pan out. So I think it's important to understand those. And from there, it starts to actually be pretty easy to figure out what you should be doing. Like, did I walk you through I did this analysis a while ago about like mathematically what increasing the length of engagement for people that had canceled.
Yeah, it was like 70 grand, right? You did.
It was like 70 grand.
Yeah.
It was like 70 grand.
Do it again. It was worth sharing.
So if you are a gym that's been around a long time, meaning like I have, and let's just say that whatever your CRM, you have 10 plus years of data in there. So understand that like the longer you've been around, you need to tighten up the parameters for measurements on something like leg. Because if I look at lifetime length of engagement, mine is over 3 years for my clients. Because I have people that have been here for 11 plus years inside of Wodify, which is what we use. I have people that have been here for well over 16 years, right? But easy math says if I have somebody that's been here for 10 years, if I had 2 clients, one has been here for 10 years and one here been here for a year, average length of engagement is 5 years, which mathematically is correct, but leaves a lot for misinterpretation. Meaning I would be like, oh, that's awesome. 60 months length of engagement. And you're like, it's 2 people, dude. But what are we talking about? So a really interesting exercise for people is go back and filter all of your clients, every single person that has canceled within the last 12 months, and then filter it again for people that were there for less than 12 months. So they had to have canceled within the last 12 months, and they had to have been a member for less than 12 months. When we ran that number for that subset of people, it was 5.4 months length of engagement. I ran the math on extending their length by 3.5 months and getting it to 9. It was a 70 grand top line revenue. I'm like, I can't think of a more worthwhile and ROI positive endeavor than that. Like, there's no amount of front end sales in most instances that's gonna like give you that kind of enduring ROI. And I think that's the kicker, right? It's like we're talking about enduring ROI. Because if I get them over 9 months, I'm probably getting them over 12.
Yeah, and I think that's just bigger picture, something. I mean, you would equate this to anything in life, right? It's like digging into these small nuanced things that can have an outsized return is
Like
often
exponential return.
right. And it's like you said earlier, it's like, I need to do paid ads. It's like, or if you go, and maybe that's not the metric that every box owner needs, but it's like,
Right.
it's no different. You know, the analogy I would use is like, it's your member that needs, you know, special programming where it's like, if we just got your shoulders a little more mobile, like that would solve a lot more than volume, right? Like whatever that weakness is, like that was a weakness you exposed and now you can improve it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, which is like, oh, now you can do overhead carries correctly, and all of a sudden, a simple overhead
Everything else is right. Your muscle
overhead
ups
walking
get
lunge
better.
workout you can
Right.
actually do prescribed now, which is like simply because you got an extra 10 degrees in the overhead position.
Right. And which, you know, your overhead squat, your muscle ups, you can countless things are going to improve. It's an outsized return. So
Like I can give you some other metrics. So like I just like casually canvassed some of the folks we're working with, but like some of these numbers are wacky, quite frankly. Like we have people that have length of engagement of 40 months, right? Churn of 1.95%, which is absolutely bonkers, right? Lifetime gross profit of over $8,000.
that's crazy.
Well, that's what it ends up being when you have good retention. If people stay around longer, you think about like what is the overall gross profit on that client? It goes up over time.
Yeah, which also then opens the door for, you know, being unreasonable with gifts and all these other things. Because
Right.
you're like, this guy's worth $8,000. I can buy him, you know, a gift certificate for his birthday.
Right. So like things like improving retention by 1%, it can equal 4 to 5% increase in top line revenue.
Yeah.
So 1% better on retention, 4% better, or 5% better in overall revenue.
So let's go through it. I mean, the 4 pillars of retention: onboarding, what their first 90 days looks like; coaching, are they being seen, corrected, making progress;
Right.
check-ins, do you have ongoing touch points and accountability; milestone tracking, are you reinforcing their wins, be it they've been here for a year or, you know, they celebrated a PR, etc. So you've got this formula of retention equals value times consistency times personalization, meaning they want to get value in what they're doing, get better, get results. They show up on a regular basis, and it seems like it's personal to them.
So this is the one that gets a little sticky, right? So let's talk about what does personal mean. The first two are pretty simple. Like, do they get value? Do they get results? Are they getting fitter? Are they getting whatever physical results they came there for? Meaning losing weight, better body fat percentage, more lean muscle mass, better capacity, like whatever. If you're doing CrossFit, you're going to get those. Are they showing up consistently? That one, number one, can be measured. Like you should be tracking attendance both on a weekly, monthly, and lifetime basis. But then the personalization, I think people overcomplicate this. I think people think that personalization means more custom stuff. Meaning, okay, more personalization means I have to give them personalized programming and they need a personalized nutrition program and they need more. And listen, if you've got the ability and the skill set, if you got the ability to fulfill on that and the skill set to sell it, listen, swing for the fences, my friend. Like, I want you to do that. However, that's not necessarily what I mean by personalization. This goes back to the concept that I call relative and relevant. When we're talking about touch points, thinking about what are the series of things that I could do that would be relevant to them, meaning something that is unique to them and nobody else. They got their first box jump. They got to their 100th workout. Hell, they got to their 5th workout, right? They got 16 attendances for the month and made committed club. They got a PR on Fran. Like, these are all things that are completely uniquely relevant to them. All of which you can measure in most CRMs, by the way. And then the riddle becomes, can I interact with them on as tight of a relative time frame as humanly possible? So can I get to them on their 100th workout? Hell, can I get to them on their 5th workout and be like, here's your sticker for 5 workouts? So they're like, just 5? And you're like, that's where it starts, bro. You don't get to 100 before you get to 5. So here's your 5 workout sticker, right? Can I see that they hit a PR and then text them that day or message them and be like, bro, that's awesome. Super proud of you. Like, I know how much, getting a 20x box jump means to you because you've been working on this for a really long time, right? Like, that is what we mean by personalization. Personalize the communication and the interactions with you have. Most people are over the moon with that. And I find that most people would prefer that than all of the other custom stuff. Because if you do those things, they show up consistently and they'll get all the results that they're looking for anyway.
That's ultimately what it comes down to, right? If people are showing up regularly and getting results, and like you said, of course they're going to stick around. So we've done this in the past. Let's do it here. You've talked about ways to improve retention, why it's important. What are some ways to ruin retention? What are some red flags?
I think red flag number 1 is, what do your overall attendance rates look like? Meaning, like, how often are people coming? Which has a root cause fundamentally in coaching. In my anecdotal experience, at which point I've seen so many variations of this, it's hard to quantify. So, like, are people having a good time in the classes? Just watch. Like, is there laughter? Are they do they show up kind of excited? Are the coaches bringing the energy, right? Those are like little things.
You can argue it's subjective, but it's one of those things that we all know what it looks like.
Yeah. Like, it's happening or it's not. One of the metrics that I think is most telling is when you run a Bring a Friend week, the number of people that show up. And it's just like, if you remember, it's like, right, all of my friends are here. And I'm like, you have 2 friends? Or like, it's not, if you have low attendance on Bring a Friend week, this is not an absolute statement, but it tends to hold, is that means that, like, people are not stoked about it, right? They're not constantly asking me, like, I want to have a friend that I want to bring in. When can I bring them? So if the referral rates are low and attendance on Bring a Friend week is low, this is probably a very strong correlation to your retention, meaning, like, I've got higher retention than I should, higher churn than I should. And even if it's just a little bit high, I think we always underestimate that, like, this could be like the tip of the iceberg, which is like, hey, I see this problem at the top, but underneath that is a whole bunch of people that are basically, looking at the affiliate like it's, warm milk toast. Right, who are just like casually engaged now with the affiliate. And this is when you see mass exodus, when like something seemingly benign happens at the gym. They're like, oh my God, you moved the rubber bands. This gym sucks, right? And you're like,
yeah, I'm leaving. I'm taking everybody with me.
Really important to understand conceptually, what does retention mean to you and your affiliate? So it goes conceptual, mathematical, and then tactical is the way I want affiliate owners to think about this, meaning, like, hey, it is the thing that is going to maximize my growth. Mathematically, what does that number look like? And then what are the things that I can engage on people with? Again, starting with your onboarding, right? And then looking at things like retention and what are my touch points with my clients. So again, onboarding, coaching, check-ins, and then milestones. So I think if you put that framework in and you can convey that to your staff, you're going to come up with all sorts of unique ways to integrate this and to do this in ways that are unique to your affiliate. And I think that's where things get really fun, is when you have things that are like, they're like your version of them at the affiliate.
Love it. So If you want to learn more about retention, how to get better at retention, how to improve your retention, click the link around here, because every month we take a limited number of people in an all new trial that will help you work on the weaknesses, just like we talked about within your own training. You have weaknesses at your box. We can help fix those, and you're going to have an outsized return. So click the link around here, find out more. We'd love to help you.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.